welcome back to the Doug Karns program here on All Noise Radio, 267-495-4866 or DougKarnsProgram@gmail.com. All right, so the one thing I could say I agree with these protesters is, okay, we want some reform going on with what's going on with the country, all right? I mean, these people are upset about unemployment, student loans, and political corruption. First of all, to get with the student loans, these colleges are making mad money off of you, and nobody's protesting them. Nobody is. They are making so much money off of you that they have billions of dollars in their bank account that they don't touch. Now, how about you go protest them and say, hey, I got a degree in fine arts, which who the hell knows what you do with a fine arts degree? But, go ask them questions. Go ask why they charge you so much when they have billions of dollars in their endowments. Does anybody ever wonder why that is? I mean, if you don't want to be a hypocrite, go ask the colleges and the universities why they are charging you an arm and a leg to go to their school to get a degree. I mean, it shouldn't be that much money, especially if you have billions of dollars in the bank account. How about you just give away free college for the next couple years to people? Or at least cut rates in half? Because obviously you're making mad profit off of people, off of your students that you're indoctrinating with, and you're just putting it in the bank account. I mean, Harvard has $38 billion in their endowment. I mean, that is close to what almost Apple has in their bank account. And that's a private university. They have that much money. So I agree with you. But let's protest. Let's fix the things the right way and not try to collapse the system. Let's do it through the republic that our founders put in place to fix things like this. I mean, the government caused this problem. If anybody remembers the Housing Reinvestment Act in the 90s that the Republican Congress and Bill Clinton signed into law, saying that banks would be penalized if they didn't give out these subprime loans in the 90s, which means a subprime loan means people with low income would have a very low payment at first, and then as the years went on to pay off, because you have to pay it off at some point, a $200,000, $300,000 loan, it needs to balloon up because the bank's not just going to give you that house for $500 a month. So if you want to know why the housing market popped in the 2000s and why a recession is what it is now, is because of our government. And really, the banks have a part of it too because they played game with them. They could have just said, no, we're not doing it. But really, you have to blame the government in this. I mean, we haven't had straight capitalism in this country since Teddy Roosevelt. The government has been intervening every single time. And like I said in the show months ago, FDR, when he wanted to solve problems in the economy, he would bring in the big boys in whatever industry it is, whether it was automotive or oil or whatever, and have them fix it, which these guys fixed it for themselves so they could succeed and the other guys couldn't. So our founding was sought as you keep capitalism as a free market and never touched by the government, never have any kind of influence inside the government whatsoever. And we totally went against that in the 1900s. So all of that back then has caught up to us now. I mean, this took us 100 years to get here. It's going to take us 100 years to get out of it. But we have to start somewhere, and you need to understand history. Again, I sound like a broken record, but the Depression of 1920, we lowered all marginal tax rates to 25%. And then we cut spending by 50%. And unemployment went from 12% to 2% in 3 years. 2%. Everybody who wanted a job had a job. That 2% was the people that just didn't care and didn't need a job, whether it was a young adult or what have you. So obviously FDR's big spending, Woodrow Wilson's big spending, Obama's big spending, Carter's big spending in the recession in the 1970s, it did nothing. It wasn't until we actually cut back on taxes and spending in the 80s that we actually got it out of the recession in the 70s. And then we need to do the same thing now. You need to understand your history to understand where your future is going. I mean, I've always stood by that. And it comes down to the average American needs to do that. Or you have stuff like this. So, I mean, I agree with their basis of the protest. We need reform. But you got to do it the right way. You cannot collapse the system. That's not going to vote well for anybody. It really isn't. It's going to screw you and me over at the same time. So why don't we try to do it through the political system? But that takes everybody. That takes everybody in this country to be involved. And maybe that's the reason. That's why these people are out in the streets, because not everybody is involved. All right, so I agree with them on that basis. But what I don't agree with is their drugs, the poor sanitation, and the sex that's going on in the streets. I mean, this is like Woodstock on Wall Street. So let me read you this article from The Blaze. Let's see. An Occupy Wall Street protester camped in Zuccotti Park tries to catch a little sun on an overcast morning in the financial district in New York on Tuesday. The situation down on Occupy Wall Street continues to deteriorate as sanitary conditions teamed with the personal actions of the protesters appear to be eclipsing the political gatherings' original push for more equitable society. According to the Daily Mail, the environment down at the New York City financial district is increasingly debauched. What started out as a gathering of people frustrated over what they see as a lack of opportunity in America, their complaints focus upon corporate greed, the large gap between the poor and the rich in America, unemployment, student loans, and political corruption, which, again, political corruption. Go to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue if you want to fight corruption. Go to Congress. Let's work on getting lobbyists out of Congress. Let's get special interest groups out of Congress. Let's work on that kind of stuff. That's what the Tea Party is about. Restore America as it was. And when we say that, we don't mean we want slaves again. I hate when people say that. No, we got past that as a society, not as a government. Did the government help that? Yes. But we as a society have gotten past, at least I would say the majority of us has gotten past racism. There's still stupid people out there that still believe in racism. But as a society, we've gotten over it. So you should be protesting the government, not the banks. Apparently, there are now teenagers and young adults who have descended upon Wall Street in an effort to turn the gathering into a rave, with a sex, drugs, and rock and roll mentality apparently infiltrating the protests. Mail Online reports, among the banners and flags are now discarded packets of condoms, cigarettes, and bottles of spirits, while naked youngsters happily get together with just sleeping bags covering their modesty. A box of free condoms is kept in the main area where protesters are camping. So they're handing out free condoms, which, that's great. I mean, I remember when I was at the Tea Party rally, man, they gave us all these free condoms. It was fantastic. Except for they didn't. We brought our long chairs and our book bags, and we waved our American flags, and an occasional Don't Tread on Me flag in support of our voice. That's about it. We didn't have sex, drugs, and condoms and sanitation all over the place. If this is an accurate description of the conditions on the ground, it sounds more like Woodstock than it does a political movement. On Friday alone, more than 400 people were at the makeshift city, and sex was apparently a rampant occurrence. While many have praised the protesters as young people who have little means and who have fallen victim to a down economy, Andre, a 40-year-old activist, says, "Most of the kids are trust fund babies. They don't need to be here," he continues. "I've seen some making out, having sex, and it doesn't look good." So, with this said, with the smoked salmon and this Occupied Wall Street Journal paper that's printed in full color, like where is all this money coming from? It's got to be coming from somewhere. And I guarantee you it's coming from people with money that have money. So why are you protesting these private companies? Go after the government. But is that the protest that you support with that drug, sex? I mean, there's a picture right here. I have right here in my hand, if you can hear the paper. There's a guy with his pants down, with his butt pressed up against a cop car, and he's going number 2. Is this what you support? Let's reform stuff. We need reform in this country. Let's do it the right way. Oh, man. All right, so let's end the show here because I want you to hear how, if anybody remembers the Hitler Youth and how they used to chant and repeat everything Hitler said, just listen to how these rallies, this is what it's like in every single rally over the country. I'll play this, and we'll end the show there, but you have to hear how creepy this gets.
We have someone here who would like to address the assembly. That person is Congressman John Lewis.
Now, wait for this, because people are applauding John Lewis, which, if you don't know who John Lewis is, he walked with Martin Luther King, took a bunch of clubs to the head and, fire hoses. He was a civil rights guy, so God bless him. But they cheer for him because they're happy he's there. And we're not going to have the full time to play all the time to play the full entire clip. But eventually, I'll give you the synopsis, and we'll play a little bit left here. But John Lewis gets down there. He comes from his office. He says, "Oh, I'll go. I support these guys. So I'm going to go down and speak at the rally." And so he goes down there, walks all the way down from his office, and he actually gets voted off, saying that he's not allowed to speak there anymore by the mob rule. And they're told not to clap, and you'll hear it right here. You're not allowed to clap. You're supposed to use your spirit fingers. So if you agree with something, you go with your fingers up in the air. And if you don't agree with something, you point them down and you go, and then you repeat everything that everybody says. And tell me how this is not creepy. This reminds me of the Hitler Youth over in Germany.
How do we feel? With hand signs, please.
Oh, with hand signs, please.
We use hand signs. Clapping can prevent someone else who is addressing the assembly from being heard. We want everyone's voice to be heard. To signal approval, wave your hands or your fingers. Or do a thumbs up. That way, we can hear each other.
All right, I can't take any more of that. But if that doesn't send a chill down your spine, this is preparing people to be mindless zombies. Just follow whatever the speaker's saying. And, read history. Seriously. This is exactly what, Hitler did. If you watch any of his speeches, you see him all salute him, and I'll repeat what he says. How does this not correlate to the average person and what's going on today? They are training these people to be monkeys. And you can see here, they hold their fingers up with spirit fingers, and they repeat everything back to the speaker. We're supposed to be individuals, not the collective. And we're slowly taking that away from each other. All right, so that's it for this week's show. I appreciate you listening. I'll be back next week, and I'm sure we'll be talking more about the Wall Street protest. So I appreciate you listening, and have a good week, everybody.